Hi, my name is Javeria and I'm a first year engineering student at Monash University, Australia. So for me, questions like will I get into a reputable university and what major would be right for me were of utmost concern after high school. And I'm sure a lot of us feel lost making these decisions. However, StudyCo has been immensely patient and supportive throughout this journey. The support and guidance provided by Ms. Mubaraka and the effort she took to go above and beyond for my future gave me a sense of security and relief. Additionally, StudyCo has been accommodating and extremely understanding, and that is why I would strongly recommend StudyCo to anybody.
Hello, I am Jason Matthias and I went to Indian School Muscat and graduated in the year 2017. I then approached StudyCo, specifically Miss Annette Rosario, to gain help in pursuing my studies in the United Kingdom. It was a very smooth process from the beginning till the end. The list of required documents were given to me well in advance. The procedures were laid out very well and the visa procedures were explained thoroughly. With the help of Miss Annette and her persistent work towards my application, I was able to make my way into Solent University in Southampton, United Kingdom.
Hi everyone, my name is Rochelle Vaz and I'm a former ISMite. After passing out from ISM in 2014 with flying colors, I really wanted to pursue MBBS to become a doctor, but I just didn't know where to begin. I came across StudyCo just by chance, and they provided me with excellent guidance, not just in understanding the gravity of medical education, but also showed me the right path to achieving my dreams. They guided me all through the application process for Monash University, Malaysia, which is an Australian university in Malaysia, and took away a large part of my anxiousness in this regard.
Hello everyone, my name is Rapali and I am currently studying in Australia. So I always had this dream of going and studying abroad, and StudyCo has helped me immensely in achieving my dream. So I am here in Australia just because of them. They helped me in every step of the way, from filling in applications to arranging documents, filling in visa applications, everything. Even though the process was so complicated, they made it very easy. They do everything for you and they never get irritated even if you ask them small questions again and again. So I encourage you all to go through StudyCo. They are wonderful people and I would recommend them to everyone. Thank you.
Head girl, Indian School Muscat. I find immense pleasure to welcome our Honorable Chief Guest and Keynote Speaker, author, former International Civil Servant and UN Peacekeeper, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Honorable Member of Parliament, to the valedictory function, Avenir 2020.
I am Vishwanath Praveen, Assistant Head Boy of Indian School Muscat. It's an honor to have our prominent keynote speaker, popular for his unique English words, former Under Secretary General of the United Nations, recipient of Pravasi Bharatiya Samman, India's highest honor for overseas Indians, and renowned author, our chief guest, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Honorable Member of Parliament. We welcome and thank you, sir, for gracing this valedictory function of Avenir 2020.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are delighted to have you all with us today for Avenir 2020, a mission to enkindle the minds of students in diversified fields and motivate them to choose the course of their interest and caliber. I am Jennifer Jason of Class 11D from Indian School Muscat, your host this morning. It's my privilege and pleasure to welcome you all this beautiful Saturday afternoon. A gentle reminder to all of you in the platform, please fill in the feedback form, which will be posted in the description box towards the close of the session. Indian School Muscat, under the aegis of Board of Directors, Indian Schools, Sultanate of Oman, is privileged to host this mega event to enkindle the minds of students in diversified fields, a comprehensive project designed and aimed at effectively guiding students and parents to chart out the future course of action after school education. Making a right career decision at the right time makes a lot of difference. Once again, a warm welcome to one and all to this afternoon's prestigious Avenir 2020. Today, we are privileged to have with us eminent personalities from University of Sydney, Australia, who will discuss the courses available with them. Over to you, sir, for your presentation.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, everyone. Thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure to be a part of the Avenir 2020. I'll just share my screen very quickly and then we'll get started. Great. So thanks for all joining me. My name is Sean Douglas. I'm zooming in today from Sydney in New South Wales. It's just gone 7:30 p.m. in the evening. I hope you're all doing well wherever you are. I know it's a really tricky time for a lot of you, and I acknowledge that we've been really fortunate here in Australia with the COVID pandemic. So I hope you're all doing well and looking forward to when this is all over and we can all sort of start traveling again and being mobile. So I'll give you a little bit of a brief overview of what we're doing. First of all, I'll just get into a little bit of housekeeping. So this session will run for about 1 hour. I'm going to try and keep the presentation as brief as possible, and hopefully that's within 40 minutes. The other 20 minutes is dedicated to you. So if you have any questions about courses that we offer, or just what it's like to live in Sydney, or like whether we have scary animals here, these are the kinds of questions we get a fair bit. Please don't hesitate, send them through. I love being inundated with questions, and that will really help the session go quickly. I hope it'll be really informative for you. We don't have a Q&A box, so that's my mistake. If you have any questions, just put them through the chat. I think that would be best. And all right, we'll get through to it. First of all, I know everyone's overseas at the moment, but I think it's really important that we, at the University of Sydney, we're really proud of our traditional custodians on which the land of the University of Sydney campuses are built. So our main campus in Camden and Darlington, that was traditionally owned by the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. So these are the native indigenous First Nation peoples that traditionally cared for the land and continue to care for the land as well. So the wider team, so I work as the Senior Regional Recruitment Assistant at the University of Sydney within the Sydney Future Students team. Our sub-team, which looks after the Middle East, South and Central Asia and Africa, makes up myself, Cedric, who normally looks after this region, but I'm helping him out today, and Nishant. So if you have any questions, you can always send us an email. I will be moving on. If you want to take a screenshot of those email addresses, that's fine. Otherwise, you can ask me and I'll type them in the chat box as well. Okay, so before I get into the bulk of the presentation, I'll give you a bit of an overview of what it's like to live in Sydney. I'll tell you what I did when I studied at the University of Sydney, what courses you can take, what it's like to live there, and other things about even just like how your application works. So it does span a lot of information. If I'm going too quickly, I'm really sorry. There's just a bit to get through, but feel free to ask me in the chat box if you've got any questions or you'd like me to go over something else. So Sydney in general, if you've heard of Australia, you've heard of Sydney. It's our largest city. It's the most populous and one of the most international cities in the world, I would say. It's the economic centre of Australia. So all of the largest economy in Australia is run out of Sydney. and it's right on your doorstep if you're studying at the University of Sydney. So this photo here is actually taken from our law school. It's on our main campus. If you're coming in at the undergraduate or postgraduate level, you're more than likely, like 90% chance that you'll be studying on our main campus. If you're doing some kind of niche degrees like vet science or vet medicine, there are other campuses you might be working on, but by and large, the most time you'll be spending is on our main campus. And while you're on main campus, you're only about 5 kilometers from the CBD or Central Business District. There you have hundreds of companies, international companies, working hard, and they're really, it's fantastic that you have that kind of opportunity to mix and do internships and get experience and interact with these companies and institutions around the city. So you're really in the hub of Australia's economy here. We're one of the most livable cities in the world. We're consistently ranked in the top 10 of the most livable cities. I think that's one of the indexes down here. And that is by and large owing to our safety, our healthcare and education systems are really great. Our culture in Sydney is vibrant. It's very international. We've got people coming from all over the world migrating to Sydney to work and study. We have, I think there's over 100,000 international students studying in Sydney, and we have around 30 to 40,000 of them studying at the University of Sydney. So it's pretty incredible being a part of that. So you're gonna see a lot of different people from a lot of nationalities, lots of different food, and a lot of different languages. So this is just an overview of Sydney Harbour. It's quite a stunning photograph. On a sunny day, and we're coming into summer, it does look like this normally. It's very green. It's very beautiful. I'll just point out a few of our campuses here. So our main campus, this is the one I was talking about, 5 kilometres away from the CBD. Our public transport system is fantastic. So if you are wondering how you get around, you can pretty much walk anywhere if it's close by. However, we also have a really great public transport system. So buses, trains, and ferries. So one of the best ways to see this is actually Sydney Harbour, is to take a ferry from Circular Quay here and all the way around to Manly, which is a fair way up that way. But it's insane. It'll cost you about $3 Australian, which is like $1.50 US. And these are some of our other campuses here. So if you're studying an MBA or postgraduate business, just the MBA, you'll be working at our CBD campus. We've got various dental clinics, vet and agriculture farms. Our Sydney Conservatorium of Music is stunning. It's right next to the Botanical Gardens, which is on the doorstep of the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. So everything's really close. It's really quite incredible to work and study in such a vibrant city. This is probably a little bit overwhelming, this map, but this is our campus. We are quite large, and it's one of the more rare campuses in the world in terms of its proximity to the city. Because we are so old, and I should talk about that in a little bit, we were originally on farmland. And when the city grew up around us as the years passed, we've kept our boundary. There are no other buildings within our campus. So it's all just campus. It's like the campuses you hear of in the US, but instead of being in the middle of nowhere in farmland, we're right next to the city. So it's very interesting. We love our sport. You'll see a lot of ovals or sporting fields. We call them ovals in Australia. And this is where you'll be studying. There's various student accommodation you can see around in the red houses. And this is where you'll be working and studying. So yeah, as I said, we are the oldest university in Australia, the first one as well. So founded in 1850, we were modeled heavily on the Oxford and Cambridge universities in the UK. That's why we have some of these really beautiful neo-Gothic sandstone architecture around campus. It's a very interesting mix of old sort of Harry Potter style buildings with the new up and coming sort of philanthropic donations that go into our new buildings. And from the get-go, we have been really sort of egalitarian in who we choose and who we enable to study with us. We were one of the first universities in the world to admit women and graduate them. So not just let them in, but we were enabling them to graduate them as well. And of all faiths, and races as well. So this was our founder here, the opportunity for the child of every class to become great and useful in the destinies of this country. And I think that really, as Australia's first university, that has really embodied the Australian tertiary education system. Overall, we're ranked 40 out of over 22,000 universities worldwide. That's by the QS World Rankings. And we heavily emphasize academic merit over pretty much everything else when it comes to admission. So if you can work hard, you can get good grades, then no matter what your circumstances are, then you're welcome to join us at the University of Sydney. So this is what we looked like back in the day. There are no cows anymore. As I said, we were on farmland originally, and as the city has grown up around us, we've maintained our beautiful grounds. We've just gotten rid of the farms. So the University of Sydney is very well known for law and politics, but we are good across the board. We attract some really sort of high profile graduates or students that go on to become really high profile graduates. So we've taught 7 prime ministers, including I think 2 of the last 3 Australian prime ministers have come from the University of Sydney. We do go through them a lot here in Australia. I wish it was a little bit more steady, but anyway. We've taught 23 justices of the High Court of Australia, so that's in our legal system, 110 Rhodes Scholars and 140 Olympians. I think that's actually a little bit out of date. So we are very interested in our sport here, and I think in the Rio Olympics, we sent around 30 either current students or alumni to Rio to compete in the Olympics. As I said, one of the first universities in the world to admit female students. And overall, we're about 73,000 students strong. A lot of these students are actually, like you, joining from overseas to study remotely. And I'll talk about that later. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering what the go is with the COVID-19 pandemic and how the University of Sydney has pivoted. But I'd really like you to focus on, this is the community that you're joining in current students, 30,000 international students, but also you've got over, I think this is out of date as well, it's probably nearer to 300,000 global alumni. So these are people that have studied at the University of Sydney, they haven't stayed at Sydney, and they've gone internationally. So you'd be surprised, most people, wherever you go in the world, have heard of the University of Sydney. They know our prestige, and they know that our students are really equipped with the skills and knowledge to go and work pretty much anywhere. So as I said, we're good across the board. We teach from sort of A to Z in terms of like architecture, arts and social science, business. I'll let you read the rest. There's a lot there, but pretty much anything you can think of. Some of the more niche ones don't have, I think it's like cooking and dancing. I think that's it. Everything else you can sort of choose a degree that will gear you towards a career in that area. And we're good across the board as well. So I often get asked, if you teach everything, surely everything sort of suffers in terms of quality. And that's completely false. We actually rank very highly in all of these different areas. So arts and social sciences, business, science, medicine and health. So I'll point your direction to things like sports related subjects. We're 4th in the world for our physiotherapy degrees in physical therapy. Our vet school is very highly ranked as well in the sciences. 12th, and our law school is does really well as well. How am I going? I need to hurry up a little bit. One of the most important rankings, I think, and it sort of goes a little untalked about day to day, we are the Graduate Employability Index. So this is a measure of the success of graduates in finding relevant work in the 6 months after they graduate. So the relevant work is key. A lot of graduates go and find work in like retail or hospitality, and that's fine, but it's not necessarily related to their degree. And I think that's the point here. You're devoting a lot of time and money to come overseas and study with us. And I think the University of Sydney, for the most part, can guarantee that you're going to have access to learning the skills and knowledge that will really equip you to get jobs in any kind of field. So we're ranked 1st in Australia, and we're very proud of that. I think we're even more proud that we're 4th in the world for graduate employability. So we're up there with universities like Harvard, Stanford, Oxford. I think we pip a few of these as well, so we're ahead of those. Secondly, we are second in the world for the World Impact Rankings. So this is the research done by our academics and our PhD candidates at the University of Sydney. It's making an impact. It's addressing global issues, and we are awarded the second ranking for that area. So our study period, I know it's a little different to some Northern Hemisphere academic calendars. I'll just like to break it down for you. We have our semester 1 and semester 2. So these are our main intakes in the year. All of our degrees will have a semester 1 intake. This is when most of our Australian students are joining us, especially in undergraduate. So they'll finish high school in just around now, actually, November. They're all finishing and celebrating at the moment. They have a couple months off and then they'll join us in semester 1. Not all of our degrees have a semester 2 intake in August. So just check that. The ones that don't tend to be degrees that have things like placements and so like medicine or veterinary science or sort of the applied science degrees like physiotherapy, they usually only just have the one intake in semester 1. So just keep an eye on that. So they're roughly 13, 16 weeks long, each of them. You have a 1-week break in each semester just to chill out. It's called just the mid-semester break. You have a 1-week break before your exam period, and then you have 2 weeks of exams. And then you have a 6-week winter holiday, winter in Australia. So in normal times, a lot of students would use this opportunity to go back. It's quite a lengthy break. It's not just a couple of weeks. You have a month and a half to get back and visit family and friends. And then semester 2 commences and you have the same kind of thing. This time you have pretty much all of the Australian summer off. If you're stuck in Australia, it's a great place to be. You can have Christmas in the heat, which is probably not that uncommon in Oman, actually. But yeah, you've got that 3-month break there as well. So normally when you can travel, that's a great time to go home or go on holiday. So we do admit largely on the basis of academic requirements, but we also do focus on English. All of our courses are taught in English. So we do require our students to be able to prove in their application that they're of a sufficient strength. So these are all the indexes and tests that we accept. And these all have different levels of scores for each of our courses. So that's another thing I'll point out. All of our degrees each degree has its own specific admission criteria. So some degrees are more in demand than others, and they are harder as well. So there are different academic standards and also English standards as well. So if you go on our website and look up English requirements, or if more importantly, and probably it's a better use of your time to go to the course page. So for instance, if you're looking at a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Commerce, just type that in with USyd in there and it should take you to the course page. Say you're an international student or whatever background you're coming from, and you'll get the admission criteria there. So during the COVID-19 pandemic as well, we're also accepting the IELTS indicator and the TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition. So this is valid for our next semester, so semester 1 next year. That starts in March. However, you won't be able to defer your unconditional offers to anything beyond that. So this is just a little sort of flexibility for students coming from areas that are maybe in lockdown, or the testing centres have closed down due to the coronavirus period. But I think for most people, I think that the testing centres are opening back up, but you do have these options here. So this is the international guide. This has basically all the information that I'm talking about today in it, and it's in a PDF, which is good. If we were face-to-face, I'd obviously give you a physical copy, but this is the next best thing. I don't know if you'll be able to click that on the screen, but after the presentation, I'll link you that into the chat box. And if you can reach out to StudyCo as well. So I see that there. That's really good. And it also has the admission criteria table. So depending on your academic background, I know there might be a lot of CBSE students with us today. You can go and look and see the individual scores for the courses that you need, and it's specifically for CBSE. So we offer as well, as part of our bachelor's degrees, a really large mobility program. So I know I'm saying this a lot. In normal times, you have the opportunity to go on exchange and with one of our partner universities across the world. So we have over 300. I think we cover all continents except for Antarctica, of course, but you can go basically anywhere, study at that institution and get credit for the work that you're doing. So you basically it's like a seamless transition into another program. And we're really pushing out, there are scholarships you can go for mobility, and we're pushing to have about 50% of our students undertake an international experience. I know a lot of students that have done this, and that it's some of the most amazing experience that they can have as well. I speak to a lot of international students, and they ask me, I'm already coming to Australia, I'm already doing that international experience. Is it worth doing another one somewhere else? And I'd say it is. I think there's a lot to learn in Australia, but you do have the opportunity to do even just a short exchange program. So these short-term ones, it can be 3 to 6 weeks. If you always wanted to go to Europe, or you wanted to go to Asia or Southeast Asia or New Zealand, for instance, you can do that. And I think that's really special. And we're more than a classroom. So there's a lot of focus on getting your application sorted, like what academic criteria is needed, how hard is the degree going to be for me. But I think we do a really good job of balancing that at the University of Sydney. So we have over 200 student-run clubs and societies you can join. So these range from sort of social societies, like sort of creative arts and performance, sport, we're big on sport, but also any kind of strange hobby that you can think of. If you're big into movies, you're big into music, you can join them. But you also have these academic and professional clubs that are student-run that do a really excellent job of preparing you to connect with industry and future employers. So they really work on your professional development. They set up things like networking and volunteering events. So they're really great to be a part of. And I really recommend in your first week, if you do end up coming and studying with us, join as many clubs and societies as you can. You're going to get introduced and sort of thrust into this excellent and vibrant range of communities on our campus. So they're excellently represented with domestic Australian students and international students. And it's just a great opportunity to get involved with stuff and try out stuff you haven't heard of before either. So moving on. So big on sport. We have several gyms on campus and a lot of sporting fields. You can try some like Australian sports as well, like Australian football. We're really big on rugby. We have, I think, the 8th oldest rugby club in the world. But any sort of sport you can think of, we're big on cricket as well. So yeah, get involved with that. So lots of things to do in Sydney. A common, or at least in my office, a lot of people say if you're bored in Sydney, then it's your own fault. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of beautiful and interesting things to go and see. We have one of the most stunning coastlines in the world, and it just happens to be on our doorstep in Sydney. So Bondi Beach, you might have heard of. A lot of these fantastic beaches with big boardwalks that go along the outside. That's what we do a lot when it gets hot in summer. It's a 40-degree day here, so a lot of people were at the beach. We also have a ton of museums. That city culture is really vibrant and strong in Australia. And like I mentioned before, catch a ferry around the harbour. The other thing as well that's not in there as well, that Sydney is interesting in that it's almost surrounded. It's a large city. It's about 4 or 5 million people, but we're really surrounded by national parks. So we've got Blue Mountains National Park, Royal National Park, and Ku-ring-gai National Park to the north. So you only have to drive for about an hour in any direction except east, and then you're in sort of this pristine bushland, which I think is quite unique. So these are a few of the locations around campus as well. So Broadway Shopping Centre is sort of your one-stop grocery shopping place, but also like retail, very close. if you're living on campus as well, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Victoria Park, literally seconds away, minutes away from your classrooms and your lecture halls. So you can just pop down here and just sort of sit in the sun, take a nap, catch up with friends. And Bondi Beach, 30-minute bus ride. It's pretty nice. And Newtown is sort of like the dining, the nightlife, the sort of the cultural hub of the area. It's great to be a part of. Okay, accommodation. We have 4 different types. We've got residential halls and dorms. So this is like the regiment building here. There are private residences that are sort of on and off campus in Urban Nest. We have residential colleges, which were sort of the original accommodation complexes of the university. So these are quite old and prestigious, and they have a great community. And then the Darlington Terraces. So they each sort of differ in price and what they offer. So most of the colleges will offer 3 meals a day, and they'll cost a little bit more because of that. Others will be more independent. So the regiment building in the Darlington Terraces. When I moved up to Sydney, so I grew up 5 hours away from Sydney in a really small rural town. So when I moved up, I was like, I'll just go the budget option, and I moved into the Darling Terraces, and it was amazing for me. I lived there for 2 years and then moved off campus. So there's no requirement for you to live on campus. If you find personal or private accommodation elsewhere, or if you have family in Sydney, you can, by all means, you can do whatever you want. However, I do think it's a really good idea, just in that transition period, when you're first starting out living in a new city, don't want to be worrying about how to sort of catch public transport or worrying about the commute, and then trying to transition into sort of university life, especially if you're coming out of high school. A lot of our postgraduate students, they'll just go straight into private accommodation. But I think it's really important to just find your feet, get yourself oriented around campus, and then if you want to, then you can move off. And usually a lot of people will move off with the friends they make later. So moving through, how am I going? Hurry up a little bit, sorry everybody. So this is a bit of the breakdown of what you might be expecting to pay for various different things. So the tuition fees, these vary depending on the course that you take, but they're usually around 50,000 Australian dollars. The conversion there to Arab Emirates dirhams, and then the Omani, it's real, is it? I'm not that familiar with it. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but hopefully that's useful to you, that information. So the breakdown of the costs will be tuition fees, overseas student health cover. Now that's a really important one. If you're an Australian student in Sydney, then you don't really have to worry. You're sort of already eligible for the sort of the social medical system, and it's a really good one. It's really great quality healthcare. But you, as an international student, will need to pay, but that gives you access to basically the public system in Australia. The services and amenities fee, so this is basically a small cost that goes towards the running of the general facilities. And it also helps with the student representative council and the union. So these are sort of bodies that represent you as students, and they take a portion of money just to keep running. Textbooks, they're sort of becoming more and more outdated and less relevant. I sort of am ashamed to say that when I was studying at the University of Sydney, I didn't ever lease or rent a book from the library ever. Everything was online. It was all in PDFs. So they're becoming less of a thing. But if you're doing something like law or even something like medicine or veterinary science, where you really, it might be worth your money, and it might be a bit annoying scrolling through thousands of pages in a PDF, then you might expect to buy some textbooks. Living expenses, 31,000 Australian dollars is a comfortable estimate. I would say you could do it on less, especially if you're doing it at the Darlington Terraces. Normally the range for like a private residence is about 220 Australian dollars to about 350 Australian dollars per week. Obviously, if your standards are a bit higher, then it will cost a bit more. And then a return ticket. So that's a rough breakdown. That's about as specific as we can get in terms of that. Obviously, you have varying requirements in terms of the degrees that you choose and where you live. They're the main ones. Okay, student support services. This is really important at the moment as well. So when you're on campus in Australia, that's the best way that we can take care of you as well. So there's a careers centre, childcare information office. If you're usually a postgraduate student coming to take a course, then we do offer childcare services, counselling and psychological services. If you're having a really tough time, or even just if you're just feeling a bit low, it can be a really high pressure environment trying to manage a full-time study load at a strong university like the University of Sydney. So we acknowledge that, and we have that CAPS service there to take advantage of. And I really encourage you, if you're feeling low, there are services out there. You just need to be on the ball and ask. That's all it is. I think the culture in Australia in general, like the services are there to help you. You just need to put your hand up. No one is going to come around and ask you, how's it going? You just need to put your hand up. So if there's one thing to take away from that, especially for all the high school students listening in or recent high school leavers, the biggest shock that I had when coming to university, and from speaking to a lot of international students as well, is that you're learning independently now. And no one's sort of checking up to see if you're doing your homework or you're getting things done. That was the biggest challenge for me, is to become self-motivated and self-accountable, holding myself accountable for the work that I'm doing. So a couple of other services here: disability services, very important. Financial assistance service. If you're stuck in Sydney and something happens and you run out of money, we do offer financial assistance and other things like loan options. Student accommodation services, very important as well. We have multi-faith chaplaincy centres as well. So if you can be involved with that. University health services, learning centre, and a maths learning centre as well. The maths learning centre, I actually spent a bit of time there in my first year. So I've brushed over it, but I studied a Bachelor of Science. I started in 2015, and I majored in marine science. After 3 years as well, I took an honours year in marine science as well. So I was there for 4 years, and I've been working for the university, the international recruitment team, ever since. So that's sort of the end of the presentation. If you want to take a screenshot, if you want to type these really quickly into your phone, these are really good contacts to get in touch with. I think the best one, if you're going to send anyone an email, you've got our personal emails as well. But one of the fastest ways, or if you've got an interesting circumstance, you're not sure whether we can help, the international recruitment team is managed by my colleagues, and they do a really good job of triaging where your inquiries go to. Prospective students, this is a bit more general. I'd say this is probably a better option. If you're looking to find any kind of courses, this is really good. Scholarships, I haven't really talked about them that much today, but we do offer a few scholarships for international students. So check that out, and the accommodation office as well. So that's it. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to help. I know that was actually did quite well for time there, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have. I might throw it back to you. Okay.
Yes, sir. Wow. That was quite an impressive presentation. Now let's move on to the queries from our audience. The first question: do you offer biomedical science course?
We do, yes. So we do offer a Bachelor of Science, and then you can elect to do the medical science stream. Often that is, often students looking for biomedical science might be looking at an engineering aspect as well. So you can actually take either, if you're more interested in research and maybe going on to study medicine later, then I think the Bachelor of Science in the medical science stream is best. But alternatively, you have the Biomedical Engineering stream within the Bachelor of Engineering Honours. And I think that's a really good option. So you've got a couple of options there.
So next question, do you offer internship to your students?
We don't offer guaranteed internships, but like I mentioned before, we're ranked really highly for graduate employability, and I think that's a testament to the amount of students that take internships, usually in the city, but we're very connected in Sydney to other areas around the country and internationally as well. So I think the main point to get across here is that none of the internships are guaranteed. However, companies and institutions are very, very familiar with the University of Sydney, and pretty much from your first year, you can start applying for internships, and our students readily get them. I have a younger sister who's studying at the University of Sydney. She's doing a Bachelor of Commerce and Bachelor of Laws combined degree. She's already done a couple of internships, and she's only in her second year. She's already done internships with Deloitte, the consulting company, and she did an internship at a law firm and managed to get part-time work out of that. So there's a lot of options available. You just need to use your own networking skills and use your own work to get in touch with those.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Can the students opt to take accommodation outside the campus?
Accommodation, sorry, was it?
Can the students
Take
opt to take
accommodation?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, definitely. Thank you. That's a good question. Yes, we don't restrict our students to living on campus at all. You can choose wherever you want to go. I think that's often an economical decision as well. The rent around Sydney, sort of the rent in any city, is more expensive near the central business district, and also near things like sort of tourist destinations like the Opera House and Harbour Bridge. So it's great in a lot of respects that the University of Sydney is next to those features. However, the rent is quite high around that area. We do offer some really affordable options on campus, but often it's more economical to travel west, which is away from the central business district. And usually people will think about or try to choose rental accommodation that is near the public transport lines, so our train system or our bus system. So that's the best way to ensure the commute isn't too long.
Next question.
Thank you.
Can you brief us about the placement?
The placement? Sure. So the placement culture in Australia, it doesn't really exist. We don't pair students with companies or other institutions. Basically, similar to the way that students secure internships, they do it from their own networking. So we rarely, no, it doesn't really work like that in Australia. So you'll graduate with a degree, and then it's up to you to go and approach various companies and that you want to work for, and start working for them or sit a job interview. But I'd just like to point out again, our graduate employability ranking is very high, and I think our students do a really good job in the grand scheme of things in securing work. And the reputation of the University of Sydney does precede you when you're going into those job interviews.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Do you offer post-study work visa for students once they graduate?
Great question. It's a really important one as well. So I'd like to just start out by saying I'm not a legally registered migration agent. I think StudyCo might be your best option to talk about migration avenues there. However, in my experience, then a lot of international students do manage to secure post-study work rights. There are certain criteria that you need to meet, like in terms of your course duration. So if you're looking to do a quick master's degree, you might not be eligible, but I'd really really encourage you to go onto the Department of Home Affairs Australia's website. They will have the official information. Just because I'm not trained in any of that field, and I'm not legally allowed to sort of give any advice, and rightly so, because I don't have the up-to-date information. So get on that website and you'll be able to see there. But thank you, good question.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Does your university provide courses for geoscience?
Geoscience, yes, very much so. It's interesting that when I did my major in marine science, it's an equal split between marine geosciences and marine biology. So I got to experience firsthand a really fantastic geosciences school. They're very active in terms of the research they put out. A lot of it is geocoastal research, and you're in a fantastic position to study that. You're really only a half an hour bus ride from the coast, and that's where a lot of the work happens. A big sort of proponent of my degree was working on how to maintain and restore coastlines. You'll notice in Sydney Harbour how much property is just on sort of the edge of the water there, and protecting that from sort of erosion and the weather and a lot of the beachfronts. A lot of the geocoastal research is done on sort of maintaining beachfronts, but you can be involved in a whole range of different stuff. They do things on the Great Barrier Reef. They do a lot of sort of things for mining research as well. So it's a massive field. If you're just interested in geosciences in general, I think you've got sort of a lot of doors to open potentially if you're interested in that area. So best of luck in your pursuit of that, whoever asked that one. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Sir, does the university offer MMBS course?
MBBS? Unfortunately,
yeah,
thank you. That's a good question. Unfortunately, we don't. So the MBBS, for those that don't know, is an undergraduate medicine degree. We do have undergraduate medicine pathways. They're not degrees, but they're an undergraduate Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts, which streamlines you into the Doctor of Medicine. So the pathway, no matter what way you get into medicine at the University of Sydney, is usually a 3-year undergraduate degree followed by a 4-year Doctor of Medicine degree. So no, we don't offer the MBBS, but we do offer the Doctor of Medicine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Do you offer molecular biology and genetics? If so, what is the eligibility criteria? Is there any specific entrance exam?
Great, thank you. That's a fantastic question. And it does relate to my sort of field in the Bachelor of Science. A lot of my friends, rather than majoring in marine science, they did molecular biology and genetics at university. So it's a very strong field. It is offered within the various Bachelor of Science streams that we have. So if you go online, I'll just try and find that international guide. Oh, sorry, 1 second. I'll find the link. If I can post it in the chat, would that be useful? I'll see.
Yes,
sir,
thank you. You can post it in the chat. You can post it in the chat, sir.
Great. Everyone in the meeting. There we go. There you are. So that is our admission criteria guide. So you'll be able to see the various international qualifications that we accept along the top in all the columns, and then on the left, all of our degrees. So if you go down to the Bachelor of Science degrees, then you'll be able to go along and see, I'm not sure of the qualification that you're working towards or that you have, but you'll be able to see the relevant qualifications there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Do you offer course in archaeology?
Yes, I think we do. I think you can major within the archaeology. You can major within the Bachelor of Arts in archaeology. So yes, we do. The Bachelor of Arts has over 50 majors you can choose from. So for those that might not be familiar with the term majors, that's fine. A major is what you focus on predominantly within your degree. So you can choose a general degree like a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science. Typically, they're the most general degrees that we have. And two different students studying different majors could be on completely different units that they take to make up their degree. So you have a lot of flexibility in what you study. It does get a bit confusing because of that. You've got so many options and units to choose from. But specifically with the Bachelor of Arts, you have majors such as, I think, archaeology, anthropology. You can do things like psychology within that. Trying to think of some wild units that are different, but there's too many to think of. You can do languages as well. There's tons of options there, and you can often take units from across the university. So you can take things like science units or business units as electives while you're studying in a Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science. So I think the University of Sydney does a great job of ensuring that our students have the flexibility to choose units that are interesting to them. And at the end of the day, that means that you're graduating with a different set of skills than, say, a typical Bachelor of Commerce, Bachelor of Arts student that only knows business or arts. You're equipped with those skills and knowledge, and you're able to work with a whole different range of people because of that. So I think that flexibility really helps in the long run when it becomes relevant to your degree and your career. Thank you. Good question.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Is it possible to do a double major in genetics and agriculture?
I think yes. I'm going to say, without checking, I think yes, you can. So that's quite a specific combination. Within the Bachelor of Science in the agriculture stream, no doubt you'll be doing genetics units. Whether if you're really interested in focusing on genetics, maybe beyond the level that they teach in the normal agriculture course, you might be able to take it as a major or a minor. So a minor is just like a major. It's an area of study you focus on. You just do less units in the minor. So you might not need to take a second major within the agricultural stream because they will teach you genetics. It is important though, just to check. You can check in the course page. You can sort of see the units of study that comprise the degree. But yeah, I would say there might not need to be, and you might be able to choose a second major in some other area, say like in computer programming or computer science or something like finance or marketing or something like that. You have the option of doing majors like that. Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our last question for this afternoon. How does the university deal with any anti-community sentiments among the students?
Anti-community sentiments?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great question. It's really good to not ignore things like that because it is a part of our society, our global society. So anti-community sentiments, we don't really call it that in Australia, but we do have racist incidents and racial incidents around. It's unavoidable. I think globally, Australia and Sydney specifically does a really good job at welcoming cultures and being open and forward thinking when it comes to different cultures and different ways of thinking and living. For the most part, I think it's a very strong, vibrant community in our student community. I'm not going to lie, you do have some incidents. They are rare, but I'm not going to lie and say that they don't exist. When they do happen, you have the range of support services that we do have at the University of Sydney. You can take advantage of that. You can contact your friends and your peers. You can contact your class, your teachers, your professors. Everyone is open to that kind of conversation. So it doesn't matter where you go with that information. Like if something has happened to you or someone you know, or if you're fearful in any way, then you can go just about anyone, and they'll help point you in the right direction. Any member of the University of Sydney staff, whether it's academic or professional staff, is there to support you through any kind of incident like this. If you're affected in the long term by an incident, I really recommend getting in touch with our counselling and psychology services. I know a lot of friends and students that have made use of that service and come out the other side with a really sort of bright and positive outlook on what can be some kind of ugly events. I wouldn't say it's a huge problem on campus, but you have basically a melting pot of so many fantastic cultures and different people coming to work with us. So it's an unfortunate outcome of that. So I hope that answers your question. It's a bit vague, but I think if anything happens to you, if you're worried about that coming to Australia, or if you've heard about something that's happened, just know that I think, and just speaking from my personal experience and personally, not as a University of Sydney staff member, we tend to do a pretty good job of sorting that out. I'd just like to acknowledge that I'm obviously blue eyes, blonde hair, Caucasian Australian, so my experience is going to be very different to those that have come from overseas and might look different to me. A lot of my friends are from different countries, so I'm just speaking, I just want to acknowledge that. So everyone's experience will be different, but I hope that the University of Sydney staff can help you and support you through whatever issue comes your way. Let's hope none.
Thank you, sir, for the informative presentation. Dear audience, a gentle reminder to all present. You are requested to fill in the feedback form, which has been posted in the description box. As we come to the end of a wonderful session, I would like to express our gratitude to each and every one behind the grand success of this session. Gratitude is the mother of all virtues. Indian School Muscat, under the aegis of the Board of Directors, Indian Schools, and the Sultanate of Oman, together extend our heartfelt gratitude to His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq for his benevolence towards the Indian community here in Oman. On behalf of Indian School Muscat, the organizing team, and the entire audience, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to our guest speaker, Sean Douglas. We sincerely appreciate the time and efforts you took to share with us the courses you offer. Our sincere gratitude to the Chairman, Board of Directors, Dr. Baby Sam Samuel, and members on the board, Indian Schools in Oman, Mr. Ajay Kumar Pillai, President and members of Indian School Muscat Management Committee, our Honorable Principal, Dr. Rajiv Kumar Chauhan, Presidents and members of all Indian School Management Committees in the Sultanate of Oman, Principals, Vice Principals, Assistant Vice Principals, Supervisors, Coordinators, Heads of Departments, Teachers, Parents, and Students, our valued guests, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot thank enough our Principal, Dr. Rajiv Kumar Chauhan, for his unstinting support. Thank you, sir, for being such an impactful leader. Our gratitude goes out in no small measure to the event managers and the entire team for their dedicated work, without which this event would not have been as successful. I thank one and all. I thank all the students and parents for being with us today and for your active participation during the entire program. Signing off, this is Jennifer Jason of Class 11D, Indian School Muscat. See you at 4:30 p.m. Oman time at the valedictory function of Avenir 2020. Join us there to know how we made it to this day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Wish you all the best in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.